الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Respected listeners, we're continuing regarding Husnul Khatima and Su'ul Khatima, the most important part of a human being's life, the ending. A person who leaves this world with khair, they leave this world in a good state, they have indeed been successful. And the person who leaves this dunya, it doesn't matter how good they were, if their end state, they leave this world in a bad condition, then what happens? The person will be considered unsuccessful. And some of the asbab, some of the causes and reasons for a bad ending and an evil death, this is a very, very long topic. Good deaths, and incidents in Islamic history of good people who had a good outcome, they left this world in a very beautiful state. It's a very long topic. Maybe inshallah one Ramadan we could spend just on this topic. So there's not enough time to cover really fully in depth. And similarly, people who have had a bad outcome in the history of Islam and what had caused them that, what led up to that, this is also a long topic. So inshallah, tonight I will just briefly go over some of those things. And inshallah we will wrap up for this topic. And inshallah from tomorrow we will continue about the stages, what the human being actually experiences and what they see with the coming of the angels, etc. Coming into the topic for a protection from an evil death. Evil deaths, they have many, many causes in this dunya. And one of the main ones is persistence on sin. Persistence with a lot of boldness, not seeking forgiveness, not having remorse, not having any care for disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is one of the main causes for a person to be negligent at the time of death. And brothers and sisters, there were so many people, the stories are many, that on their deathbeds, the people around them, they said, say La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah. But these people, because of their persistence on sins, some of them, their last words were, give me another shot, give me another glass of alcohol, give me one more this, give me one more that. Some people, they lived their lives with immoral, opposite gender relations. What were their last words? The names of some of these people that they had relationships with. Instead of the name of Allah, what was apparent in their heart and their inner nature, that's what came out. So brothers and sisters, this is a very important point. That to be protected from an evil death, you have to have fear. You have to have concern. Every sin, every disobedience, you have to take it very, very seriously. You cannot have a bold attitude against Allah. You must be very, very fearful over the sins that a person has had. And that's why we mentioned yesterday that young companion radiyallahu an, when he was on his deathbed, the Prophet ﷺ came and said, how are you feeling? What are you experiencing? He said, I hope in Allah, but akhafu dhunubi. I'm afraid of the consequences of my sins. He had fear. He was worried. So what did the Prophet ﷺ say? These two things are not combined in a person. Hope in Allah and fear of sins. Except that Allah will grant him what he hopes and Allah will protect him from that which he fears. So having this fear, anytime a person falls into sin, immediately making tawbah, immediately asking Allah for forgiveness. And as I had mentioned, one of the most serious things that puts a person in the grips of the shaitan is intoxicants. Whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, anything that takes a person's aql and takes your mind out of its normal state. The ulama mentioned this is one of the prime things that would lead a person to a bad death. Because in this world, while you're alive, if you hand over your brain, your mental state, you're literally handing it over to the shaitan. When a person becomes intoxicated, what happens? that beautiful gift of intellect, you are giving it away. Subhanallah, the difference between us and animals, the difference between us and a tree, the difference between us and a rock is what? Allah gave us intellect. We're able to reason, we're able to think. It's one of the greatest gifts and bounties of Allah. When a person chooses intoxication, you're taking that gift that Allah has granted and you're literally just throwing it away. I will let my aql go. I will let my ability to reason and discern and differentiate between matters and rationalize with this beautiful brain. I'll give all of that up, no problem. I'll engage in this intoxication. Na'udhu billah. So when you hand it over to the shaitan in this world, then as a result, what is most probably going to happen when a person is in the state of death? This mental state will also be very easily, readily available for the shaitan to get a grip on it. And you will say, and you will think, and you will believe the words of the shaitan. So many people at the time of death, they've been deprived of the kalima because they said words of, intoxication. Give me this drink, give me this intoxicant. This was their condition. The last words which came out from their mouths at the time of death, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's protection. There's a story that is mentioned about one man who lived as a pious man, but he was probably hiding so many sins between himself and Allah that he was persistent on, and he had no care attitude regarding. So what had happened was the local people, they were going out of town and they had within their family a young girl who had something wrong with her intellect. She was mentally ill. So they told this pious man, they said, look, we're going somewhere and we want to leave her in your care. We want to leave her in your trust because you're a very pious man and we trust you and we respect you. So he said, okay, no problem. He, takes care of her. He puts her somewhere in another room. And in the end of the day, what happens? The shaitan gets the better of this man. So he was enticed through committing an evil act. And this girl, she eventually becomes impregnated. She becomes pregnant. And, this man, the shaitan comes to him and says, look, they trusted you. You have a name in the society and community. How bad it's going to look on you. Why don't you go ahead and murder her? Murder her and bury her inside of your property somewhere in your backyard. Bury her so that you are not disgraced and this issue doesn't come to light. And when they come and ask, you just tell them, she fell ill, she fell sick, and I had to bury her, I performed the janazah, and inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, we're very saddened for what happened. When he committed this act, the shaitan came in the dream of the family members. And he said, don't trust this fake mullah. Don't trust this fake Maulana, this fake sheikh. He has killed your daughter. He has killed your sister. And the spot where he has buried her is right over here in the middle of his home, in the middle of his backyard. So the family members, they eventually came and they interrogated him and they asked and they said, no, we just want to check something. We want to check somewhere. They buried, and what did they find? They found the remains of their loved one. This man, he eventually gets imprisoned. And while he's in jail, guess who comes again to visit him? You see, step by step, when the shaitan visits you in life and you follow him and you obey him and you accept his invitation towards sin, then what happens? You become habituated to this. It becomes normal for you. Then at the time of death, when he invites you, you're used to accepting that invitation. Those people who deny the invitation in this dunya, inshallah in the akhirah, they will also deny the invitations of the shaitan. So what did he say and how did he invite him? He said, look, you're in big trouble, but I can help you. I can help you get out of jail. I have a lot of connections. But you have to do one thing. Say that you disbelieve in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and that you believe in me. Once you say this, I will help you, I will support you, and I will get you out of this prison. You will live as a free man. And this person in his ignorance, what does he do? He disbelieves in Allah And what does the shaitan do after that? He runs away. You disbelieved, my objective is fulfilled. Go help yourself now. And right when he disbelieved, Allah had written that his death will come at that time. And look at how that ending is. From a life of piety, so-called piety in the eyes of the people, the shaitan caught him in his trap right at the end of his life because of the abundance of sins that he was living in. Respected listeners, another cause for bad deaths is delay. Delaying our tawbah, delaying our aspirations to live a good life. You know, next year, next month, once I finish college, once this happens, you know, once I land that great job, once I get married, once I have kids. These aspirations and hopes to keep on delaying the next step, then I will leave this sin, then I will become a good person. Once this happens, once the delay, and then what happens? Death comes suddenly. And then it's too late. Excessive love for this world is one of the greatest causes of a bad death. Because when a person loves this world excessively, they do not have the ability that they can openly accept the invitation to go to Allah. So they cannot easily say La ilaha illallah. They cannot easily accept the leaving of this dunya because their heart is so attached to it. The ulama mention that every step, a person who has excessive love for this world, they will experience punishments. In this world, if you love dunya too much, then what happens? Your punishment is right here, that you always have to seek more. You can never be content. Your mind is always on the next dollar. Your mind is always, in sadness when you have to spend. So in this world, you're getting punished because your love for dunya, you always want it. And anytime you have to spend, your heart is hurting for it. Oh man, I spent 20 bucks. Oh my God, I spent 30 bucks. Oh my God, I have to give zakat. You feel so bad in this dunya. And then secondly, when a person is going to go towards the akhirah, at the end moments of death, they're also punished at that time. Because they can't think of the kalima. They're thinking of all their assets. They're thinking of all their money that they're leaving behind. And thirdly, the one who's too attached to this dunya, what happens on the Day of Judgment? The accountability will be way more severe for people who had excess of dunya. Subhanallah, so many people, the stories are numerous. How many people that at the time of death, it was said, La ilaha illallah. But what did they say instead? 4 for $2, 6 for $7, this for that many dinars. Their last words, this is what they're thinking. Business transactions. This is a good deal. That was cheap. I missed out on that opportunity. Literally, these are the words that they're saying as their soul is about to go and meet Allah. That's the only thing which is on their mind. And again, this is because excessive, attachment to this world. Another cause of a bad death, brothers and sisters, is bad company. When a person keeps bad company, then what happens? The chances are that at the time of death, you're not going to have good people that are surrounding you, that are going to encourage you for kalima, for good things. If you're surrounded with good people, then at the time of death, subhanallah, they're reading Quran for you. They're reciting the kalima. Just seeing all those beautiful faces, it's an encouragement towards good. When you're surrounded with bad, then what happens? You don't have any motivation and encouragement for good. One of the greatest examples of this is the death of Abu Talib, the uncle of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Can you imagine, as he is passing away, on one side you have Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's saying, "Oh my beloved uncle, accept Islam. Say La ilaha illallah. You are going to be successful. You will enter paradise. You will be protected. You will be saved. Oh my beloved uncle, please say La ilaha illallah." Every time the Prophet ﷺ would encourage him for kalima, guess who was sitting on the other side who would make a rebuttal? Abu Jahl was sitting there. Umayyah ibn Khalaf was sitting there. Abu Lahab was sitting there. These evil people of the Quraysh, every time the Prophet ﷺ would invite him towards Islam, They would raise their voices and they would say, "Oh Abu Talib, don't listen to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is trying to doom you to the hellfire. Follow your ancestors, follow your forefathers, die upon the deen of the Quraysh." And then again the Prophet ﷺ would say, "Oh my beloved uncle, say La ilaha illallah." But what would he say? And then what would Abu Jahl say? "Don't listen to Muhammad. Die on the deen of the Quraysh. Die on the deen of your forefathers." And in the end, what happened? He passed away on the deen of the Quraysh. The voice of the Prophet ﷺ was overpowered by the voice of his friends Abu Jahl and Abu Lahab. It was a result of his company. Brothers and sisters, can we imagine that at the moments of death, the TV is turned on, the moments of death, people's cell phones are ringing with music playing in the background. At the time of death, you want comfort, you want ease, you want a spiritual condition for people to recite the Quran to you. And imagine all the opposite is happening. For a good death, it's essential. A person must be surrounded with good company, brothers and sisters. And for a good death, there are a few tricks that the Prophet ﷺ taught us. There are a few important things that when we bring it in our lives, then inshallah there is great hopes that we will leave this world in a good condition. The regular things, brothers and sisters, every day reciting the kalima La ilaha illallah. Every day repeating La ilaha illallah. As much as you can, renewing the faith through La ilaha illallah. And I mentioned this before. So important. I had a community member personally came to me and said, "I have a question for you. And I need some of your time." I said, "All right, what is it? What do you need?" He said, "I just want to practice reciting the kalima the right way. That with proper tajweed and the right way. I want to make sure that I'm not saying it the wrong way. Because when I die, I want, and my dream and my goal and my wish, my desire is that I will recite the kalima at my death. But I wish to recite it properly the right way. And I want the angels to witness me reading the kalima the right way." And literally this guy sat with me for about 30 minutes. And the whole time it's like a dhikr majlis. La ilaha illallah. 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 Is it correct? La ilaha illallah. The whole time just repeating his kalima. And subhanallah, in the middle while he's doing this, the person is crying. Tears are flowing from his cheeks. This is the fikr and the concern that a person needs to, inshallah, have a good ending, inshallah. I mentioned that tonight would be the last night and we would cover everything. But inshallah, I don't want to take too much time. I know it's getting late. We will continue tomorrow with some of the remedies and some of the things that we can inculcate that inshallah will facilitate a good ending. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us all a good ending with the kalima La ilaha illallah, that we leave this world in a state of iman. We leave this world at our best condition. We leave this world in the best ibadah that we've ever performed in our lives. And we ask Allah to protect us and our progenies and our families and everyone from the ummah, that we leave this world upon a sin. May Allah protect us all. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.